Choosing Home by ginnyrules27, Chapter 38. And before I get started, this chapter is very emotional, guys. It's very sad. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Here we go. Aurora sighed as she sat in the waiting room of Aurora General. Unlike Asclepius General over in Oridon City, Aurora General was kind enough to give them a private room to wait in. It wasn't something Aurora had insisted on, or even asked for. However, the staff had insisted on it. They said it didn't make sense for the King and Queen of Aurora to wait and potentially get mobbed by the public. Of course, over in Asclepius General, they got to be in their daughter's room rather than have to wait outside. Though, with Audrey's second baby being a caesarean, the doctors probably figured that Aurora and Philip didn't want to see that. "They'll be all right," Philip said, gently taking Aurora's hand and giving it a small squeeze. "Both Audrey and the baby. And then we'll set up a room for Audrey." Aurora nodded. Mal had come to them and offered to speed up the pregnancy, saying that it was cruel to have them stare at Audrey's almost lifeless body. The Lady Alethea apparently taught Mal a way to speed up the pregnancy without speeding up time itself, and Mal extended the offer to Aurora and Philip. It would be a one-time use, as Mal didn't feel exactly comfortable speeding up someone's pregnancy without their consent. Even someone who had tried to kill her and threatened the safety of her brother. "It won't be much longer," Philip spoke again, trying to break the silence. "The doctors here are the same ones who delivered Audrey, and they handled your caesarean without any trouble." "It's a good thing Phil's not here," Aurora whispered. I wouldn't want him dealing with this." "I think he'd rather be here than taking Henry to get fitted for a suit for his wedding," Philip said, trying to force a chuckle, but it fell flat on his lips. "At least Claudine is watching Arabella." "More like Claudine spoiling Harry before her birthday," Aurora corrected, a small smile pulling at her lips, as the image of her granddaughter, surrounded by all the presents that had been arriving over the past month, danced in her head. Mal had gifted her a purple and blue plush dragon that had felt flames that could be attached through Velcro, while Ben had created a small miniature library out of a plastic playhouse, as well as stocked it with as many picture books for a 1-year-old he could find. Aurora and Philip had told him it wasn't necessary, but Ben had insisted. Jay and Harry had each given her a small wooden sword, each one painted green and red for the colour scheme in her nursery. Jay had apparently been very put out that Harry had snatched up the option for red for him, according to Mal. Evie had worked her magic on the sewing machine and made a collection of dresses that would work as casual clothing, keeping with the green and red colour choices. Something Aurora had been thankful for, as Arabella's hair grew in, and it was obvious she had inherited Audrey's brown hair, with Audrey's brown eyes. Seeing Ari in pink the way Audrey used to wear it, as Leah tried to make her into the clone of Aurora, it would have hurt too much. The green was a nod to the forest where Aurora had grown up, and the red was a nod to Philip's cloak. But, other than that, they were just two regular colours Ari could make her own. Uma had given her a small tri-cornered hat that she had dyed a light red, while Henry had given her a small floaty that looked almost like a ship that she used constantly. Of course, he was often in the pool with her, the two of them spending hours swimming away with Claudine and Phil by the sides. "We really should look into a christening," Philip said. "I know," Aurora said with a small sigh. After everything that happened, it's the last thing on my mind." Philip nodded and gave Aurora's hand a small squeeze, just as Ben and Mal slipped through the doors of the waiting room. "Any word?" Ben asked. Aurora shook her head. "No, and I'm concerned. A scheduled caesarean like this normally takes about 45 minutes, and it's been at least 2 hours. There may have been some internal damage done by the speeding up the pregnancy," Mal said, her voice soft. "Aunt Alethea told me that it was normally done by those who wanted to control their month the baby was born in, and usually it was done with those who had earned favour of the gods, so it wasn't done often.
We're not blaming you, Mal, Aurora reassured her. It's just a little nerve-wracking to still be sitting here without any word. I can go and ask for you, Ben offered.
He wouldn't try to pull rank on the doctors or nurses or anything. Their job was hard enough as it was. But that didn't mean Aurora and Philip had to be sitting there with no information about their daughter. Regardless of what Audrey had done to him, what she did to Mal, she was still their daughter, and she had been Ben's friend at one point. Not to mention, Aurora was kind enough to grant Ben the ability to remove his consent from the betrothal contract. He could do this kindness for her. Slipping out of the room before getting a response, Ben looked around and finally tracked down who he assumed was a doctor or nurse. They all wore scrubs.
Excuse me, Ben said. Would you be able to send someone to provide an update to Queen Aurora and King Philip on their daughter and grandchild?
Oh, King Ben!
That's not necessary,
Ben said, cutting off the medical worker before the bowing started. They didn't have time for that anyway. Aurora and Philip needed news, not Ben being fawned over.
Right, let me go ahead and check if there's any news.
That would be greatly appreciated, Ben said, giving the worker a small smile before heading back to the waiting room. Well? Mal asked as he slipped back in.
Someone's checking to see what's going on, Ben said. Hopefully, we'll hear soon.
Philip shook his head.
You two don't have to stay. I'm sure you're both swamped with work and wedding preparations. Philip, there's no place I'd rather be, Ben assured him. Audrey was my friend growing up. Even if everything with Freddie hadn't happened, I'd still want to be here to make sure she was okay.
Aurora and Philip gave the king a small smile as he sat down next to Mal. They grew quiet for a minute, for Mal heard Ben muttering something to himself. His hands clasped and pressed against his forehead. Ben?
Oh, sorry, he said as he looked at her. I didn't realise.
You weren't loud, Mal told him. But what are you doing?
Ben sighed and brushed his hair out of his eyes. I was praying. To Lady Alethea, to Saint Raymond Nonastus, the patron saint of delivering babies, to Frasier, any prayer I could think of.
Aunt Alethea and Goddess Freya makes sense, considering the first one's my aunt and the second one is Norse. You know, with Akio and his family worshipping Odin. But the saint?
Ben sighed. I don't know what, if any, religions my dad practiced before he met my mum. But in my mum's village, there was a clergyman. Père Robert, I believe his name was. He was my mum's stop for books if Alvin's bookshop was closed. Mum always said that Père Robert made their small corner of the world feel almost big.
But you recognise the Greek and Norse gods too?
Mum always told me that a ruler respects all their citizens, even the ones with different beliefs to them. I don't like to pray often, especially after everything with Freddie.
Mal gave Ben a sad smile and took his hand gently. Teach me? She could easily ask her aunt to keep Audrey safe during the delivery process, but a bit of extra protection never hurt anyone. Besides, she may have even wanted to smite Audrey back when the former princess was throwing her coup. But now? She didn't deserve that. Not when she had been spending the rest of her life in an eternal sleep. But before Ben could do anything more than smile slightly at Mal, they were joined by someone who Mal and Ben could only assume to be a doctor.
Dr. Chilton?
Aurora asked, standing up and looking at the man. He was an older gentleman, with his brown hair peppered by streaks of grey. He had been the doctor to both deliver Audrey and Philip Jr., so Aurora knew Audrey would be treated with the best possible care. Not handcuffed the way she had been over in Oradon City, even if Aurora could see why that was necessary.
Your Highness, Dr. Chilton said. Is something wrong? Did something happen to the baby?
Philip asked, quickly standing up and moving to stand next to his wife. it would have had to have been the baby, right? Audrey was perfectly healthy. Despite the whole sleeping for the rest of her life situation. But that wouldn't have impacted the birth. He hoped.
You've got a beautiful and healthy baby princess,
the doctor said, but his somber tone implied there was more that he wasn't telling them.
And Audrey?
Aurora asked, her voice no higher than a whisper.
I'm so sorry, Your Highness. We did all we could, but unfortunately...
Aurora's sobs cut off the rest of the news the doctor was telling them. But it was pretty clear what he was trying to say.
When can we... Oh God, I can't!
Aurora whispered, Philip holding her close to him as her shoulders racked with sobs. Come on, Mal whispered to Ben. We shouldn't be here. Ben nodded as he saw the quivering of Philip's shoulders, as if the man was barely holding it together and would break at any moment.
Please, let me know if you need anything,
Philip said as he walked over to Aurora and Philip.
Whatever you need. I'll do my best to help.
Ben, you don't have to.
She was my friend too,
Ben said, his voice soft.
Had things been different, she might have been my fiancée, and we would have been family. But no matter what, she was my friend.
Thank you, Aurora said, her voice thick with tears. Ben, I hate to ask, but would we be able to bury her with family?
She's your daughter,
Ben said, his voice gentle, yet shaking slightly, as his eyes shone with unshed tears of his own.
I wouldn't imagine you'd bury her anywhere else. I'd even reinstate her title if we run into trouble because of it.
Philip nodded, gently rubbing Aurora's back.
We appreciate that, Ben. More than you know. Of course, Ben said. Mal and I will go. Give you your privacy. But again, please, if you need anything, let me know. Or let my mother know if you'd rather.
That's an idea, Mal thought to herself. After Aurora gives the news, of course. But everyone in the Learning to be Royal Club could do something for them. They don't deserve this. Not with how amazing they were with letting Ben out of the contract and letting Claudine into their lives. Not to mention giving Henry a rim. As Mal and Ben walked to the door, Mal gently rested a hand on Aurora's shoulder. I'm so sorry.
It's not your fault, Mal,
Aurora said, shaking her head. I know, but I'm sorry all the same, Mal said. May Audrey's memory be eternal. Aurora and Philip gave a shaky smile, but Mal could tell that it was years of being in the public eye that was holding the grieving parents together.
Come on,
Ben said, and the two of them made their way out of the private room. Mal glanced over and saw Philip's brown eyes shining with unshed tears, and quickly used a bit of her magic to cause the door to close faster than it normally did. Let's stop over here for a moment, she said softly, as they walked in silence for a few minutes.
In front of the newborns?
Ben asked, a shaky chuckle on his voice. I thought you'd like to see her, Mal said. Audrey's daughter.
Audrey's? Not Freddie's?
Mal shook her head. As much as Audrey annoyed her in school, and the whole coup thing, Ben had just lost one of his oldest friends. There was no being redeemed from death after all. Besides, it was absolutely no sacrifice on Mal's part to pretend that Freddie Frollo had no part in creating the little girl they saw in front of them, swaddled in a pink and blue blanket like all the other babies in the newborn room. The princess was in the middle. Mal could see a glimpse of what looked to be blonde hair sticking out from under her pink hat.
I wonder what they'll name her,
Ben said, his voice no higher than a whisper.
Aurora and Philip, I mean.
Maybe they'll name her after Philip's mother, Mal said, her voice a smidge louder, but not by much. I'm sure we'll hear soon, once they have a chance to look at their granddaughter. Mal gently led Ben to the other wall, both of them sitting down on the ground. The hall was empty, almost abandoned save for one or two medical personnel, who seemed to turn on their heel upon seeing the King of Auradon and the future Queen sitting on the ground. They sat in complete silence there for what felt like almost a year, but was probably more like 5 minutes, until Mal could see Ben's shoulders shaking. "Shh," she said softly, gently bringing Ben's head onto her shoulder. "Let it out, Benny. Don't hold it in."
Those poor kids. Ari and her sister,
Ben said, his voice catching as the tears began to spill down his cheeks.
They're never going to know their mom, and all they'll know is that Audrey was a villain.
You know that's not true, Mal said, gently rubbing Ben's back. Aurora and Philip will tell the girls what Audrey was like when she was their age, when they start asking. And you're forgetting about a very important person who can tell them about their mum.
Who?
You. You said it yourself, Benny. Audrey was your friend at one point, before all of this. Go on, Ben. Let it out. I'm not going to throw a fit over you crying over the death of your oldest friend. Ben gave her a watery smile, before burying his head into her shoulder. Mal didn't say anything, but just gently rubbed his back, content to sit there forever, as long as Ben needed. There wasn't anything else waiting for them other than paperwork and wedding prep. Nothing that couldn't wait another day. Auradon was in mourning after all. End of chapter. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Oh my god, that was so sad. I feel so sorry for them. Audrey dying in a cesarean. I'm a cesarean birth and there were complications with my birth. So this hit home. Let's just say I've known of people who have had birthing complications with cesarean, and I can't imagine anyone I know dying from it. Anyway, yeah, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, girls and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care, okay? I love you guys. Bye.